Right now, somewhere in the Pacific, a submarine is sitting on the ocean floor. No nuclear reactor, no massive crew, just a diesel engine, a battery, and a weapon that can hit Mach 5. And as of this week, China just armed dozens of them with hypersonic carrier-killer missiles. This is the weapon the US Navy was not ready for. On February 16, 2026, Naval News confirmed what defense analysts had been dreading. Chinese state media quietly announced that the YJ-19 hypersonic anti-ship missile has been officially accepted for service aboard the People's Liberation Army Navy's Type-039B Yuan-class submarines. Now, if that doesn't immediately set off alarm bells, let me explain why this changes everything. The Yuan-class isn't some cutting-edge nuclear attack submarine. It's a diesel-electric boat. Relatively cheap, relatively small. China has at least 13 of them in service right now, with more rolling off the production line every year. They're the workhorses of the Chinese submarine fleet, the equivalent of a Toyota Camry compared to a nuclear submarine's Ferrari. But here's the problem. China just strapped a Ferrari engine onto every single one of them. The YJ-19 is a scramjet-powered hypersonic missile. That means it doesn't just go fast, it sustains speeds of Mach 5 or above for the duration of its flight. And it launches from a standard 533mm torpedo tube. No vertical launch system required. No special modifications. Load it like a torpedo, and what comes out the other end is a missile that travels a mile every second. And here's the terrifying part. China is now the only country on Earth that has armed non-nuclear submarines with hypersonic strike weapons. Not Russia, not the United States, not anyone. Just China. But what makes this missile different from everything else in China's arsenal? And why is the US Navy scrambling to respond? Stay with me, because the technical details are where this gets truly alarming. To understand why the YJ-19 is such a game changer, you need to understand what came before it. For years, China's submarines carried the YJ-18 missile. The YJ-18 is itself a serious weapon. It's essentially a Chinese copy of Russia's notorious SSN-27 Sizzler. It works like this. The missile launches as a subsonic cruise missile, flies low over the water to avoid radar detection, and then, in the final approach phase, it jettisons its outer casing and a supersonic rocket motor kicks in. The terminal stage streams toward its target at Mach 2.5 to Mach 3. That's already fast enough to give most warship defense systems nightmares. The reaction time for a ship's crew when a YJ-18 goes supersonic is measured in single-digit seconds. The YJ-19? It doesn't bother with a slow approach. The entire flight is hypersonic. From launch to impact, this missile is moving at Mach 5 or faster. It's not gliding. It's not coasting on momentum. It's actively accelerating. And unlike a ballistic missile, which follows a predictable arc through space, a scramjet missile flies within the atmosphere. It can maneuver. It can change course. It can dodge. For a US Navy destroyer sitting in the Philippine Sea, this is the definition of a worst-case scenario. Your Aegis combat system detects the launch. You have maybe 30 to 45 seconds to react. Your SM-6 interceptor needs to accelerate, acquire the target, and make the kill. But the YJ-19 isn't flying straight. It's jinking, it's diving, it's coming in at an angle your fire control solution wasn't programmed for. And it launched from a submarine you never even knew was there. Because that's the real story here. It's not just about the missile, it's about the platform. The Type-039B Yuan-class submarine is one of the quietest conventional submarines in the world. And the reason is 3 letters, AIP, Air Independent Propulsion. Most diesel-electric submarines have a critical vulnerability. They need to come to the surface, or at least near it, to run their diesel engines and recharge their batteries. When they do this, they're exposed. They can be detected by aircraft, by satellites, by other submarines listening for the telltale rumble of a diesel engine. But AIP changes that equation entirely. The Yuan-class uses a Stirling engine AIP system that generates electricity without combustion, without air intake, without any of the noise signatures that give away a conventional submarine. The Yuan-class boat can cruise underwater at low speeds for weeks without surfacing. Not hours, not days, weeks. And when it's running on AIP, it's quieter than most nuclear submarines. Because nuclear boats always have pumps running, coolant pumps for the reactor, circulation systems, auxiliary equipment. There's always a baseline hum. The Yuan-class on AIP and batteries? Near silence. The US Navy's Anti-Submarine Warfare Community has quietly acknowledged that finding a modern AIP submarine in the open ocean is one of the hardest problems in naval warfare. You need specialized assets, P-8 Poseidon aircraft dropping sono buoys, nuclear attack submarines conducting careful searches, surface ships towing passive arrays. And even then, in the cluttered acoustic environment of the shallow waters around Taiwan or the South China Sea, the Yuan-class can effectively disappear. Now, imagine 13 of these submarines, or 17, or 24, which is where China's fleet is heading as they continue building Yuan-class and the even stealthier Type-039C variants. Each one carrying perhaps 4 to 6 YJ-19 hypersonic missiles alongside their standard torpedo loadout. That's potentially over 100 hypersonic anti-ship missiles hiding beneath the waves, on platforms you can't find. But China isn't stopping at the Yuan-class. What they're building next is even more dangerous, and it's why the Pentagon just called an emergency review of Pacific submarine defenses. The YJ-19 on Yuan-class submarines is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Because China isn't fielding one hypersonic anti-ship missile, they're fielding 3. In addition to the torpedo tube-launched YJ-19, China has the YJ-17, a slightly larger hypersonic missile designed for vertical launch systems. While the YJ-19 uses a scramjet for sustained powered flight, the YJ-17 is a hypersonic glide vehicle. It launches on a ballistic trajectory, reaches extreme altitude, then dives toward its target at hypersonic speed in a steep, near-vertical attack. Different approach, same result. Your defensive systems have seconds to react. And then there's the YJ-20, sometimes called the YJ-21, a maneuvering ballistic missile type that's already operational aboard China's massive Type-055 Renhai-class cruisers. These 13,000-ton warships each carry 112 vertical launch cells, and some of those cells now hold weapons that can hit a moving aircraft carrier from hundreds of miles away. 3 different anti-ship missiles, 3 different flight profiles, 3 different targeting solutions your defense system needs to handle simultaneously. Now, compare this to Russia, supposedly the world leader in hypersonic missile technology. Russia has one submarine-launched hypersonic anti-ship missile, the 3M-22 Zircon. And here's where it gets embarrassing for Moscow. The Zircon can only be launched from submarines equipped with vertical launch tubes. That means Russia's massive fleet of Kilo-class diesel submarines, the backbone of their conventional submarine force, can't carry it. The tubes are too small, the wrong configuration. China solved this problem. The YJ-19 launches from a standard 533mm torpedo tube. That means every conventional submarine in China's fleet can potentially be retrofitted to carry a hypersonic carrier killer. No expensive modifications, no shipyard overhauls. Just load the weapon and sail. And the implications for the next-gen submarines are even more alarming. Just last week, literally 7 days ago, satellite imagery confirmed that China launched the first Type-039B nuclear attack submarine from Bohai shipyard. That boat is 110 to 115 meters long, with a beam wide enough to suggest vertical launch cells. If the Type-09V carries the larger YJ-17 or YJ-20, while the conventional fleet carries the YJ-19, China's submarine force will present a multi-axis hypersonic threat that no current defense system is designed to handle. And then there's the Type-041 Yuan-class, China's next-generation nuclear AIP hybrid submarine, a boat that combines the endurance of a nuclear submarine with the silence of an AIP system. Naval analysts believe this is the strongest candidate for the YJ-19 going forward. A submarine with nuclear-level range, AIP-level stealth, and hypersonic-level lethality. So, what does this mean for the US Navy right now, today, in the Pacific? Let's paint the picture. It's 2027. Tensions over Taiwan have escalated. The USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group is transitioning toward the Philippine Sea. Escorting the carrier are 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, and a Los Angeles-class attack submarine running screen ahead. Somewhere beneath the shallow, acoustically cluttered waters of the East China Sea, 3 Yuan-class submarines have been sitting on the bottom for days, AIP running. No noise, no emissions, invisible. They received their targeting data hours ago via an extremely low-frequency transmission from shore. They know the approximate position of the carrier group, and they've been slowly repositioning to create a triangle, what submariners call a kill box. At a coordinated time, all 3 boats launched simultaneously. 12 to 18 YJ-19 hypersonic missiles will erupt from the surface of the ocean within seconds of each other. By the time the first missile breaks the waterline, it's already accelerating past Mach 3. By the time the Aegis radar on the nearest destroyer detects it, it's past Mach 5. The cruiser's fire control system calculates the intercept solution. SM-6 missiles begin launching. But here's the problem. There are 18 inbound contacts, coming from 3 different bearings, all Mach 5, some of them maneuvering. The system wasn't designed for the saturation level at this speed. Some interceptors hit. Maybe most of them hit. But in the salvo of 18 hypersonic missiles, you need a 100% kill rate to protect the carrier. 95% means 1 gets through, and 1 is all it takes. This is why the Pentagon is terrified. Not because of any single missile, not because of any single submarine, but because of the combination: silent platforms, hypersonic weapons, massive numbers, coordinated attacks. China hasn't built a silver bullet. They've built a swarm. And right now, the US Navy doesn't have a proven defense against a coordinated hypersonic salvo from multiple submarine platforms. The technology exists in theory: directed energy weapons, railguns, next-generation interceptors, but theory doesn't stop a Mach 5 missile 30 seconds from impact. The US Navy isn't standing still. The Aegis Baseline 10 combat system has upgraded algorithms for hypersonic threat engagement. The SM-6 Block IB interceptor has enhanced terminal guidance for maneuvering targets, and the Navy is rapidly fielding the Helios laser weapon system on destroyers, which could theoretically engage hypersonic missiles at the speed of light. But the uncomfortable truth is this: China's strategy doesn't require technological superiority. It requires volume. Enough silent submarines, enough hypersonic missiles, enough simultaneous launches to overwhelm any defense. And with 13 Yuan-class boats today, growing to potentially 30 or more conventional submarines carrying the YJ-19, they're building that volume right now. The era of the aircraft carrier as an untouchable symbol of American power protection is not over, but it is being challenged in ways that didn't exist 5 years ago. And the challenge isn't coming from a nuclear submarine that costs $3 billion. It's coming from a diesel-electric boat that costs a fraction of that, sitting silently on the ocean floor, armed with a missile that moves at a mile per second. China put hypersonic missiles on their cheapest submarines. US Navy, there's no escape from that reality. If you want to understand how the US Navy is fighting back against China's submarine threat, watch this video next, where we reveal the secret robot warships being deployed to hunt these submarines down. Subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss it.